The Artemis program is a series of NASA missions designed to land humans on the moon for the first time since 1972 and to prepare for future missions to Mars. Artemis 1 was the first of these missions and launched this beautiful new rocket to the moon and back on November 16th, 2022. What is up, nerds? My name is Matt, and this is my review of LEGO's NASA Artemis Space Launch System. Wow, that's a mouthful. This set contains a whopping 3,601 pieces and will cost you $260 here in the US. If you're wondering, that's around 7 cents per piece for this rocket, and is a better deal than pretty much any other licensed set that you can buy. But does that mean you should get it? LEGO's Saturn V rocket released in 2020, and it was a cool set for anyone who was into space exploration. The rocket by itself always felt a little bit lonely to me though, and that's where this new Artemis rocket leaps ahead of its older brother in my opinion. By including the mobile launch platform, LEGO is able to clearly differentiate this new set from the old one while making it way easier and better to display. It also just looks a lot better and more interesting on display in my opinion. The Artemis and its launch pad just make this set feel like a complete thought to me, and I love that. I also want to talk really quickly about the size of this thing because, I mean, like, look how big it is. It doesn't even fit into the frame of my camera. When we first saw photos of the box of this set, we thought it would be around 24 inches tall, but this thing is 27 inches tall. It's pretty massive. The footprint is not that big, so you're probably going to have space on a shelf. Just make sure you have enough height for it. To me, I think that looks really cool because it towers over a lot of my other sets, and I just think that looks imposing and awesome. It really feels like a space launch system. I want to talk quickly about the build experience because other reviewers had me believing that building this set was going to be worse than moving a pile of sand from one corner of the room to another using tweezers. And maybe it's because I went into it expecting the worst, but I actually didn't mind building this set at all. I wouldn't say it was the most fun in the way that I think that like building the Lionites castle or the insect collection is really fun. By the time I got to the top of the launch tower, I was ready to be done building the launch tower. Building the base section was actually kind of fun at different points though. Building the rocket was actually kind of fun too, even though it only represented around the last hour and a half of building for me. If you get this set, you need to know that some of the white cylinder pieces of these solid rocket boosters are printed, and there are two kinds of prints. I'm really glad those printed pieces are included, but when you're building it, you really need to make sure that you're assembling everything correctly and paying close attention to the instructions, and that you're putting everything in the right orientation because it's easy to get things turned around. If you don't pay attention, you might find yourself having to take apart the boosters and pull up a sticker and put it on a different piece, like I totally didn't have to do because I'm really good. And since we're talking about stickers, let's talk about stickers. There are some in this set. When we first saw photos of this rocket, I saw the stickers and I wondered if everything was going to be a sticker because it looked like practically everything was from the photos. Fortunately, that is not the case here. There are some stickers in this set. Probably about half the markings you see on these boosters are stickers and the other half are printed. It's disappointing, and I really wish that everything was printed, obviously, and I would love to know what LEGO would have charged for a set that didn't include any stickers on this Artemis rocket. If we're going to get stickers though, I have two complaints about the ones on this set. The first is that the white of the stickers really does not match the white of the LEGO pieces, which we all knew was going to happen. That already doesn't look amazing on this brand new set, but it really makes me wonder what this is going to look like after a year or two of sitting on someone's shelf. All I can say is keep it away from the window. My second issue is the NASA logo. The way it's laid out splits it up onto 3 stickers on 3 different bricks, which creates some really unfortunate spacing in this iconic logo. I mostly try to be a purist when it comes to building LEGO sets for review and do everything exactly the way it's done in the instructions. But in this case, the designer in me just couldn't handle it, and I had to embrace the path of heresy and pull out some scissors and trim a little fat off the end just to get everything squeezed together as closely as I could. It looks better than it could have, and I think the way I've done it here looks better than they have on the front of the box, but it's never gonna look perfect. Once you get past that though, the SLS looks amazing standing on the launch platform. It accurately rests on the skirts of the boosters and attaches to the launch tower by an arm around 2/3 of the way up that grabs each side of the core stage. There's a vertical rod that holds rocket stabilizers, fuel lines, and other things, and those can be rotated by moving this knob back and forth. All of these look great and add tons of detail to the tower. I especially love the use of these curved horn pieces or whatever they are to represent these sagging fuel lines and other umbilicals. Near the very top of the tower is the crew access arm, which is angled to interface with the crew module and looks great. Those subtle details continue to the very top where the column ends with a set of double doors represented by 2 ingot pieces. The engineering on this set also seems to be pretty great, with enough flexibility built into everything that it has no problem being moved around as long as that rocket is securely connected to the tower. The rocket itself is basically made up of 3 large parts: the Orion spacecraft, the core stage, and 2 solid rocket boosters. The Orion sits on the top and is the most complicated section, so we'll save that one for last. The core stage is this large orange section below the Orion, and in the real rocket it contains liquid fuel. The LEGO version is made up of a bunch of curved tiles attached to a core of snot bricks, and it looks pretty awesome here. There are fuel lines or something on the front and back, and there are clips built into the sides where the solid rocket boosters attach. There are 4 small stickers on the launch vehicle stage adapter up top, and they were actually a little bit tricky to place because you just don't have any edges to reference or things to line anything up with. Detaching the rocket from the mobile launcher and lifting it straight up reveals 4 RS-25 engines attached to the underside of the core stage, made pretty awesomely here with a beehive piece molded in dark gray. I love that. The solid rocket boosters also look pretty awesome and feel super detailed through a combination of printed pieces and stickers. The real ones contain solid fuel and provide most of the thrust during the rocket's first 2 minutes of flight, if you want to call it that. Is it really flying though? I don't think it is. The skirt at the bottom is made up of these white wooden wash tubs or whatever they are, and the whole booster is attached pretty securely to the core stage with 2 sets of clips. I mentioned it earlier, but building these was pretty straightforward as long as you pay attention to the instructions and make sure that you're getting everything pointed in the right direction. Now let's head back up to the Orion spacecraft, which basically pokes out the top of the core stage. The very tip is the launch abort system, which pulls the Orion and his crew to safety if things go really badly during launch, hopefully. By sliding off one side of the launch vehicle stage adapter, we can remove the whole Orion spacecraft. The section at the very bottom is the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, and it's driven by one RL-10 engine. That engine is actually super old. The engine used on this Orion spacecraft was used in 1984 for the first time. It's like really old, probably pretty expensive. To see more, we need to pull out the tip and then remove 1/2 of these large cylindrical panels. Inside is the crew module, which seems like a very tiny place for people compared to all the space required for all the fuel and the platform and the structure and everything like that. It's like the size of the tip of my pinky. The service module is just below that and supplies the Orion with electricity, propulsion, thermal control, air, and water. It's powered by these 4 wings covered with solar panels. Now, if you want to do it this way, the crew and the service modules can be displayed outside the rocket on this cute little stand, and if you want to do that, then you'll have to fill that space with a stack of other pieces so that everything in there connects properly. The last part of the build is this plaque that calls out a few details of the Space Launch System. This one is a sticker, unfortunately, and not printed like some of the plaques we've been seeing in some of the more recent Star Wars sets. I'm gonna be honest, I love this set. The first set I bought as an adult was the Lego Moonlander, and I loved that set. It was so fun to build. The Artemis rocket maybe isn't the most exciting build, and it's definitely not nearly as exciting as some of the other sets LEGO has released recently, like Lionite's Castle, Insect Collection, Viking Village, or others, and I think it's important that you know that going in. I do think it's a great value as far as LEGO goes, but there are also quite a few small pieces here, so don't get too wrapped up in the price per piece. But if you like space exploration and you know what to expect, then I highly recommend this set. I think it's amazing. It looks amazing on display, I think it's beautiful, and it just looks to me like it's about to launch into space every time I look at it. I love that. If you want to see another great value LEGO set that's a lot more fun to build than this one, then you should totally watch my review of the Viking Village that came out recently, because that set is super cool. It's another bargain that looks great on display and includes quite a few minifigs if that's your thing, so check it out. Later, nerds!